basic rules of don't speak way of teaching is everything that can be done in groups must be done in groups. Because if you have like 10 students and you ask them to give examples, for example, or something like this, one by one, yeah, you understand that each student takes like 10% of like all the time that somebody speaks. That's not much. If you break them into 2 groups, the efficiency is doubled. If you break them into 3 groups, what happens? Yes, exactly, efficiency is thrice more if you break them into pairs, and so on and so on. Everything must be done in groups. That's quite simple, but many teachers forget to do this. So, of course, sometimes you need like students to do something one by one, but if it's like drilling some grammar construction, you either can ask like a few volunteers to do that, and so on. So, good thing about groups is that if you do it one by one, the students get just bored. Second thing, if you do it like random, not one by one, some of them, the most active, will work with the others, and some of them that are like shy and so on will just do everything not to be asked. That's not cool again. And the last thing about like performing some given examples or saying some phrases one by one is that students know the order, so they will technically work and think and analyze and so on only while they're being asked. They will not, well, the majority of them will not listen to their group mates, etc. But when they work in small groups, easy to control them. You just approach a group, check what's happening there, and you give them some feedback, so it provides more personal approach. That's it. So we're going to talk about major technical details here, how to break the students into group and why we need it. So some teachers just do this, like, okay, this half of the class you work together, this half of the class you work together. That's nice, but you always should change the groups. Why? Because first, physical activity. Physical activity brings mental activity. If they're like, so when you make your students move, if they're not sitting on their chairs for the entire class, they are more active, they breathe more, they have more oxygen in their brain, they think more effectively, they don't get bored, they don't get lazy, they don't get sleepy. Especially after a long work day, they need some physical activity to think better. First. Second thing is experience, because the more often you change partners, the more experience you get. It works in many areas, but in learned languages especially. So if students with different level and so on, they mix and again and again and again, so the ones learn, and of course you know that there's only one way for 2 people to have the same level of English, when its level of English is complete zero, when they know nothing and they have never heard about English. Otherwise, all students will have different knowledge in different areas, so they will exchange this knowledge. They will get more experience of working with different people. And also they will have various experience of listening to people speaking. All the students of your group, even if they're like very, very nicely chosen to have the same level, they still will speak the different way. They will use different words and so on, and changing them, so making each one of them to have like 2, 3, 4, 5 conversational partners during each class will get them more and more experience. Third thing is level. You can split them into groups. You can make the strongest help the weakest. On one hand, by exchanging them, after a while, will give the strongest chance to practice and to do their best. And the fourth thing is discipline. If you have like 2 best friends that have come to your lesson, of course, if you say like, okay, class, break into 2 groups yourselves, of course they will go to the same one. They will have fun, they will have their common jokes, and that will, the discipline, will ruin it. So, when you do it, when you split the groups, when you change them, you control the discipline. You always have a chance to make 2, 3 students that you think should not sit together, sit in different groups. And the fifth thing that's great about groups is competition. Competition is the greatest motivation for the students, because if they do let's write 10 sentences, they're not really well motivated for that. Just write 10 sentences. But if you break them into groups and say okay, we have a competition. The group that writes 10 sentences first wins. They will work. They will be much more motivated. Not because they want to learn English, but because they want to win. They will forget that they had problems with English and so on. So they will focus on winning the game, or maybe not the fastest, but the most correct. The group that makes less mistakes wins, and it is good for conducting the exercise, the competition in general, because in the end you say, okay, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, you were great. Applause to them. So they will be happy, and you will have a reason to say yeah, you're good, yeah, nice. And students need this very much. Really, they become really proud when they have won something, when they have achieved something, and so on and so on. They will focus on their successes, and it's nice. So that's why we need it's better to make all the activities in groups. And of course, sometimes it's just necessary because we need some different opinions to confront, for example, or to be compared. Okay. Why we work in groups now, how to organize the students. So, the variant you work together, it is okay. It works once in a class. So, yes, first way is just teacher's choice. That's okay, that can be done, but usually the teacher's choice is because of how students sit. So another variant is just position. Yes, okay, that might work, but I prefer randomizing through counting. So I ask my student to count into 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, whatever. This is good because that also starts any activity with some physical activity. I say, everybody stand up, wait for them to stop, and then I say count into. Sometimes it is funny when I ask them to count into, chairs and sofas, or apples, fruits, apples, bananas, and strawberries. Once even one of the groups offered to count the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They're very proud to say sex, drugs, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and so on. If somebody doesn't understand this, no problem, they will understand from the process, and it's funny to start over and over again until everybody understands. You can start from one side. If somebody makes a mistake here, you can do it from the other side, count into 1, 2, 3. And you expect you to say 1, 2, 3. We will add a video with a demonstration of this technique. Sometimes we can make it even more funny, to count them 1, 2, Harry Potter, as one of our teachers offered. Something like this. Make it fun. Of course, after a while, they will try to stand the way they are. They want to get into teams. It's no problem. You always can exchange somebody. And the last variant is through to split it into teams through volunteers. You ask okay, I need 2 volunteers to come here. 2 volunteers come to your 3 volunteers, so you need the same amount of volunteers. The amount of volunteers must be the same of the number of teams you need to make. And you say okay guys, thanks that you're volunteers, so it will be the most active students, I believe. And you ask them okay guys, you're captains of the teams, choose people for your teams. And they will start choosing, one by one. For example, one of my groups, I had a daughter and a mother studying together, and there was always a rule for them that you cannot be in the same group. I cannot say that they ever were against this. I just said, okay, sorry, you cannot choose, dear mom, you cannot choose your daughter. Okay, she chose somebody else. That's it. And since I started talking about competition, especially in this format, I also recommend you, when you do some competition between teams, keep score. Well, it will be discussing different kinds of games, and of course make them ask them to make their names. So team, not number 1, number 2, but I don't know, the crazy bananas, I don't know, the fluffy papayas, the mad pandas, whatever. That's a real team name from like my experience. That's it. That just adds a little competition, a little fun, without like breaking any educational processes. That's it. So remember that everything that can be done in groups must be done in groups. See you.